So you've mentioned meditation as one approach toward the path of awakening. How would you recommend someone meditate?
That's a good question. One major misconception about meditation is that it involves a suppression of thoughts, or that if one is meditating, that thinking is wrong or something, or that if you're really doing it right, that sort of like your mind is blank, or the thoughts just aren't happening. It's unnatural to suppress thoughts. It's as the heart pumps blood, the mind pumps thoughts. So they're going to arise. The question is, what is your relationship to those thoughts? And so I would say that the practice of meditation involves becoming more conscious of thoughts, a conscious relationship, which means, I defined consciousness earlier as recognizing that thoughts are ultimately false. It means they're useful. I know what they are. They refer to things, but they're not ultimately true. So a typical practice of meditation is to sit. They call it sitting. You don't have to sit. You can stand, walk, run. It doesn't really matter. But let's just say you're sitting. That you usually get quiet, comfortable, not so comfortable that you'll fall asleep, but comfortable enough that you can sit for at least 10 minutes or so and start to become aware of your thoughts. And that's the basic practice. What will happen is the thoughts will arise and they'll have that sense of contraction I was talking about. They'll seem to be real or true. Like the thought, you're no good, or the thought could be, I'm no good, but it could be almost as if the thought is telling me I'm no good. And who I am is somehow that which witnesses that thought and says, nah, I don't believe you. I see you, I'm aware of you, and yet I don't believe what you're saying, I don't buy it. Which means I'm not attaching to it. And then the thought, it's like the thought arises and then it sort of vaporizes or disappears in a way. So thoughts rise and fall and you just allow them. That's the basic practice. And there's more about breathing and becoming really still, but that's just to give you a sense of presence or being that enhances your ability to be aware of what's arising. In addition to thoughts, you'll have sensations and feelings, emotions, and then you'll notice that you'll have thoughts about your sensations or feelings or emotions. So I'm meditating and a dog's barking in my neighbor's yard. If I had the thought, that dog shouldn't be barking, well, the recognition, a conscious recognition is just that thought isn't true. Why? Because the dog is barking. It doesn't require analysis. It doesn't require more thinking. It's just a fundamental seeing. Similar to if someone said you have a monster under your bed, you probably wouldn't believe it. The thought just doesn't grip you anymore. So the dog shouldn't be barking. And if it does still grip you, and that gripping creates a sensation that's unpleasant, well, then you might have the thought, that sensation shouldn't be happening. I don't like that. Okay, that's more of that contraction, that judgment. A judgment being that what's happening shouldn't be happening. And I just witness it, notice, observe, allow freely. And that seems too complicated, what I just said, then just allow. Allow what you think and feel. If a sensation comes up, you can allow that. If a thought comes up, you can allow that. Let your breathing be deep and regular. Your eyes can be closed or open. Doesn't really matter. I do it closed. It's easier for me. Some people might want to gaze at a spot on the wall or on the floor or something. And if you do that 5 minutes a day even, if you do it consistently, will produce results. You'll grow in consciousness. And then as you go throughout your day, you'll tend to notice those things in the midst of regular activity. The clock should be different. That's not true. You'll start to notice. You'll catch yourself. And then, of course, there's another layer. If you catch yourself doing that, and then there's a judgment that says, I shouldn't be doing that. That's unconscious. That's bad. It's not. Okay, saying something's bad is, in a sense, saying it shouldn't be happening. Well, of course it should be happening. The sensation of badness, the sensation of unworthiness, of whatever that is, yes. And that's when it lets you go. Our tendency is to judge ourselves as bad or wrong for doing things that are innocent, really. We all know what it's like to watch the clock. It's really okay. It's just not very useful. It's not helpful. It hurts. Just like putting our hand on the burner. Oh, at some point you say, oh, I'm not going to do that anymore. Not because putting your hand on the burner is wrong. It just hurts. It's just, you're more present when you're not doing those things. Now, you mentioned meditation. I would also say a couple other practices I mentioned, inquiry and prayer. Those are both forms of meditation as well. An inquiry would be where you take a thought, and you could write it down. It's usually helpful if you write it down. And then you ask yourself if it's true. When I said that truth, being, and reality were synonyms for the absolute, you could also look into, whether something's true. You could also look into whether something's ultimately real, so there's reality, or look at whether something is fundamentally who you are, so there's being. So truth, being, reality. So if you're inquiring into being, you can inquire into a being if you want to. But being is who am I? Or if you have an idea about who you are, is saying, is that who I ultimately am? Who am I? What thought comes up? Look at that. Inquire, really look at it. Is it really true? Not really, not ultimately. I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm a son, I'm a whatever. Am I attached to any ideas about who I ultimately am? When you see that none of those thoughts can really capture who you are, you'll let them go. Inquiring into reality might be questioning what's ultimately real. Is the world ultimately real, or is it just, like I said, a phantasmagoric array that is entertained within consciousness? I would say it's the latter. That it's not ultimately real. That you become less attached to the world then. It's just an appearance. So whether you're inquiring into something's true, like a thought that you have, or whether you're looking at the world and questioning if it's real, or inquiring into who you are, those are actually all facets of the same thing. They're just useful because they're different ways of looking at it, different things you can do. And then prayer is actually a form of meditation. Most people that I've heard, I've heard it said that prayer is, asking for what you want, which I've already said that desire is wanting what you don't have, as if God were Santa Claus and He's going to give you something. It doesn't work that way. It might appear to at times, but we're not in control of anything. I'm that which allows that which is to be what it is. It doesn't require control. It requires a letting go and an allowing. So in prayer, if I'm in a tough position and I have an idea, like a thought, when I was in school, when I was in college, I've talked about that. I'm about to take an exam and I'm anxious about whether I'm going to pass or not. I can take the idea, I really want to do well on this exam, and it's got me, and I'm feeling that anxiety. Then I can just be with it. And the prayer is, I realize I'm wanting something, and I'm, in a sense, turning it over to God, reality, truth, that which is, whatever I want to call it, that I intuit as absolute reality, truth, and allowing, trusting that what I need will come to me, even whatever that is. So it's actually the same thing. So prayer, the way I look at it, is you start with wanting something, a desire or an aversion. You don't want something. Make this disease go away or something like that. You wish it would be. And then it causes anxiety or fear or something, or even anger. And prayer is going into that place where it's not true. You trust that it's not true, that what you need will come to you. And that letting go, again, paradoxically, tends to bring you what you asked for. But it's a letting go that gives you that. It's a giving up. It's a surrender. And then trusting truth to be. That's what gives it to you. So I'd like to say you get by giving. You get by giving. You can see it in generosity and giving. Often it's the giving that makes us happy. It's not having and wanting and achieving and grasping. It's allowing. It's a giving. It's trusting.